And now, the general weather around Alaska.
Up first, the hazardous weather graphic here showing high wind warnings, or getting the right side of the picture here. High wind warnings out for St. Lawrence Island, Bering Strait, all the way up here to the northwest coast, Seward Peninsula, the western Arctic coast there, along with coastal flooded warnings here in the red shaded areas, coastal flood advisory here in the kind of different shaded area there in toward Kotzebue Sound. And again, coastal flood warnings here for the coastal areas, looking for winds gusting to 65 miles an hour in the high wind warning areas of St. Lawrence Island through the Bering Strait coast, 75 miles an hour here for the northwest coast, Point Hope, Cape Lisburne, there on up toward Point Lay. Eastward here, this is a winter storm warning out that progresses from west to east here over the next couple of days. It extends all the way into the Tanana Valley and beyond over toward Two Rivers and then in toward Chena and toward Eagle there. Actually, that's a little bit to the north or to the south, kind of a mishmash of advisories, warnings, and watches there for the Alaska Range. And moving on to the southwest, we've got a winter or a high surf or coastal flood watch out there for the Bristol Bay coastal areas for, again, persistent southwest winds. So there's a chance of some coastal flooding there, better chance of coastal flooding for the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta and Nunivak Island, and again on up towards St. Lawrence Island. And on today's satellite, moisture moving out of the southeast coast. Still some showers going on over the southern panhandle this afternoon, but drying out up to the north. And out to the west here, a front weakening, really weakening, breaking up pretty good here across the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta. And some light snow here occurring up around, from the western Arctic coast down across Kotzebue in toward Buckland area, Selawik, and just real light stuff down along the Nulato Hills there across Norton Sound. And areas of light snow from the low clouds earlier today over the Tanana Valley areas. And then a lot of clouds building out here to the west associated with the next system that's going to be pushing in later tonight and more likely during the day tomorrow evening, and into Monday. On the chart here, high pressure, Arctic high pressure right over the Tanana Valley. That kept that lower cloud cover in place there with areas of light snow going much of the day in that location. But south of the mountains, a lot of clear skies. Winds diminished from what they were last evening and yesterday here across the North Gulf Coast and Madanuska Valley areas. Still a little breezy there for Kodiak Island, but temperatures rising up to near 50 at the state airport. And light winds for the North Gulf Coast and a lot of sunshine, lighter winds and a lot of sunshine. And we have this weakening low off the north coast of the Panhandle. This system down to the south, moving on in toward British Columbia. You'll see tonight, still a weak system here. This one slips down to the south. New low develops there off the Washington coast, and the moisture now into British Columbia through here. So drying out, be a dry night for the Panhandle with increasing clearing, a little colder up here in the northern areas, and stays clear for the North Gulf Coast. This area of light snow pushes into the central interior, extending up to the Arctic coast there, and then down into the Kuskokwim Valley to the western Alaska Range. Just light snow in this zone, scattering out the showers, ending along the coast ahead of the warm front here, pushing a lot of moisture and warm air, very warm air coming up with this system there, especially along and behind the warm front. Tomorrow, that's going to push strong winds and again, some pretty good snow and blowing snow. Much more of a wind producer than it will be a precipitation producer there. Again, looking for gusts to 75 miles an hour there for the northwest coast to the western Arctic coast. Strong winds moving into Kotzebue Sound, Selawik, and eventually the Kobuk Valley. But much warmer air on those southwest winds getting pushed northward here. So look for snow changing to rain quite rapidly, especially along and behind this warm front in towards St. Lawrence Island. Big fetch of west-southwest winds. Again, coastal flood warnings out for the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta, St. Lawrence Island, Seward Peninsula, Norton Sound, and portions of the Arctic coast. That's going to be later on Monday for up in that area on the central Arctic coast. Otherwise, still not bad here over the southeast interior. Leftover moisture here for a few scattered snow showers over the upper Yukon Valley to the eastern Arctic coast, and that downsloping wind off the Brooks Range keeps it dry over the north slope out to the central and western Arctic coast. Dry and maybe a few clouds for Kodiak Island And a little breezy, but not too bad for the Alaska Peninsula, the eastern Aleutians. Could still see a few sun breaks there. Not bad over the southeast interior, southeast coast. Clear weather, sunshine, lighter winds. And for the day on Monday, light variable winds here across all the panhandle, up into the Copper River Basin. This front moves into the interior and weakens considerably. Look for a mix of precipitation to push all the way up into the north central interior here. Snow and blowing snow. Eastern Brooks Range out to the eastern Arctic coast, drying out in the central Arctic coast. Still very windy conditions with winds gusting 40 to 70 miles an hour again from St. Lawrence Island through the Bering Strait up to the western Arctic coast and the northwest coast here. But drying out as you head south. Look for rain, Kuskokwim Valley, right on down along the Alaska Range into Bristol Bay and into the eastern Aleutian areas. Cloudy skies now for south central Alaska into Kodiak Island. Dry for the Aleutians. And for the lows tonight, coldest in the east here, anywhere from 10 below to 10 above. Same thing for the Arctic coast there. Warmer in the west here, staying above freezing temperatures all the way up into the Bering Strait there, and definitely around Nome, and lower 40s for the Pribilofs, 40 to 40 or 45 or so for the Aleutians, and lows 15 to 25 south central Alaska, 0 to 5 for the Copper River Basin, and mid-20s for the northern panhandle to upper 30s down to the south. Highs for tomorrow for the southeast coast, upper 40s over the southern areas, mid-30s north of Juneau, Skagway, and Haines, and mid-20s Copper River Basin, mid-40s Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta, lower 40s for the Bristol Bay area, and lower 40s all the way up there across the Seward Peninsula. Temperatures rising above freezing even to the western Arctic coast there at Point Lay, 38, 28 at Utagavik, and mid-20s for the eastern Arctic coast. Otherwise, look for temperatures edging above freezing there around Tanana. Lows the following morning, 20s here, central and eastern interior in the Tanana Valley, all the way down into south central Alaska. Teens now for the east side, and eastern Arctic coast, 15 to 20. Above freezing for the western Arctic coast for your lows. Upper 30s to lower 40s, Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta, lower 40s in Bristol Bay and the Aleutians, and 20 to 25 over the northern panhandle, with lower to mid 30s over the southern southeast coast. Highs on Monday. Much milder weather pushing into the central interior, as you can see, upper 30s to lower 40s, and then lower 40s all the way out to the coastal areas here. Mid 40s southwest interior, mid to upper 40s in Bristol Bay, and upper 40s to lower 50s for the Alaska Peninsula. Even the Arctic coast and North Slope there warming above freezing with mid to upper 30s in that area. A little cooler here, but still into the 30s over the east side, and near 50 over the southern southeast coast.